it sooner than later. President Yudhoyono yesterday again pledged more than 30 million hectares of degraded forest lands for economic expansion and for growth with equity. Detailed implementation planning needs to be discussed with all stakeholders, especially with captains of industry who will bring the economic development into reality. The third ball is in committing to reduce the greenhouse gases in our economic development activities. Impacts of greenhouse gases releases will need to be carefully considered in finalizing the revised spatial plans, in designing the economic programs. International supports can be mobilized for finding alternatives to land use change on these forests and peatlands. That will, of course, consequently reduce the amount of carbon release in the atmosphere. The fourth ball is the good governance ball, which is a set of policies and actions on anti-corruption, improving political processes, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of central and local bureaucracy or administration, and better local community engagement. This ball has become one of the old issues in modern history of governance. But since politics is also the arts of spinning, twisting, and distorting the facts, analysis, and perceptions, there is almost no end to its excitements. We have set the long and midterm goals. We already secured a foundation of democratic governance. The task ahead of us is to shape the democratic structure and the processes that brings democracy in such a way that it will benefit the majority of people while protecting the basic rights of the minorities. We need to reform the election of the Bupati and governors so that it will stop the practice of putting the remaining forests as collateral for political debts. We can add more balls, such as the lack of accurate maps of forests, lack of coherent legal system, and thus create legal uncertainty, and so on and so forth. But rather than dwelling into the details of what most of you are aware of, or perhaps experiencing and benefiting from them, I would like to propose two questions for your next sessions. First, what are the requirements for business to join the bandwagon of green and transformative economy? What needs to change within the industry and other economic players? And what needs to be delivered by the government to facilitate transformation from pollutive and extractive economy to a green and equitable economy? My second question is, how can we improve cross-sector, cross-multi-stakeholders communication? Is this important, rather fancy conference once a year with a few of you complain not so cheap entrance ticket be sufficient? Or do we need other means of communication? Communication that can bring constructive feedbacks, that can encourage and enhance motivation to do better and to avoid the blaming game. To implement a grand scheme that builds of the government policies, international cooperation, market incentive, technological innovation, civil society participation, business and corporation involvement, and others, we need to communicate. Communication improvement is a must. To conclude, I'm confident we are moving in the right direction. We have almost passed the point of no return. Not there yet, soon. On the course of sustainable and low carbon economy. Indonesia is showing the leadership on climate change. We have contributed and will contribute further to make the global climate change regime a success. As government official that involved in Indonesia environmental policies for about 6 years, I'm proud to have been part of the journey to rescue the planet Earth and to increase the welfare savings of future generations. We, you and I, should all be bold and courageous and hold each other accountable to the commitments that we make. Both government and businesses are accountable to the Indonesian people to bring them jobs, better standards of living, and to preserve the vast natural resources as we in these big countries are blessed with. I thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much indeed, Agus, not least for reminding us that there is no technical fix to some of the problems we're discussing today and yesterday. This is very often a political challenge as well. Thank you also for mentioning the royal wedding in London. Even as a citizen of the United Kingdom, I hope that not all of you will be rushing off later to crowd around the television and watch the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton. I think now we're going to move on to the next session, which is on RED+. And perhaps if I could ask Adam Schwartz from McKinsey to come up on the stage with his panel, who he will then introduce. Thank you very much.
Second. Could you sit at the end?
Second on the left.
And Dorji sit next to John.
Okay, sure. Second is you.
All right. Okay. Are we on? Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Schwartz with McKinsey & Company, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to our next panel entitled RED+ Partnerships for Delivering Sustainable Economic Growth. Which is quite a mouthful. Yesterday, from President Yudhoyono, we heard a very strong endorsement of the 726 framework for thinking about Indonesia's long-term growth. 7% growth, 26% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Given the importance of the forestry, forest products, and land use sectors to Indonesia's growth, and the preponderance of Indonesia's, at least current, greenhouse gas emissions that come from those sectors, RED and RED+ and making RED+ work lies at the very heart of that 726 strategy. It won't be easy. As we heard Pak Pungki just colorfully describe, there are many goals that have to be achieved at once. Conservation, climate change, growth, and equity being just some of them. There are many stakeholders that have to be brought on board and aligned, and it will pose some very challenging sequencing issues, and as Pak Heru emphasized, getting to implementation in a time that matters poses a very daunting challenge. We are very fortunate to have a panel with us today that is extremely well positioned to bring to light some of the complexity of this challenge. And we are going to follow our usual format of some opening remarks, and then we will open up for questions. Let me briefly and start by introducing our panel. To my immediate right is Francis Seymour, who is the Director General for the Center of International Forestry Research, known more usually as CIFOR, based in Bogor. To her right is Dorji Sun, an early RED entrepreneur and currently the Chief Executive Officer of Carbon Conservation. To his right is Pak Sitek An, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Rajawali Plantations, of one of Indonesia's largest agribusiness